Hello, everyone. Welcome to the AuthorHood podcast. Hope things are great with you. To grace our show today, we have Sonia Oinam Mam, who is a joint secretary to the government of Manipur and is an author. Very recently, she has got her poetry book published titled Endless I Will Be. Hello, Mam. Thank you very much for accepting our invite.
Thank you, Ashita. I'm very excited to be in your podcast. And I'm looking forward.
Thank you, Mam. So, how would you best introduce yourself to the listeners?
Yes, I'll start with my name. I'm Sonia Oinam. I come from the state Manipur. It's one of the northeastern states of India. And it's a beautiful place surrounded by hills. And I got my writing inspired from my birthplace, actually. Such a beautiful, surrounded by nature. And it's really inspiring. So I come from Manipur, and I'm working under the state government as a Manipur civil servant, and that's my professional line. But my writing has been like a passion, and I have been writing poetries. I've been writing articles, starting from my school days, my college days, and I have been continuing writing till date. So this poetry collection has been one of my writing endeavors.
That's so beautiful. So beautiful. So a lot of your poetry is inspired from your birthplace, as you say.
Yes.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. When the poetry, it comes from the surrounding, it anyway becomes beautiful.
True. You really get inspired from your surrounding. Maybe in any kind of, whether it's the raindrops falling or whether it's, the birds chirping, whether it's the early morning, the ambience that surrounds you, or, different kind of beauty that nature shows to us. So this has been one aspect of my writing the poems. And yes, we will come to the different aspects, of course.
Feels like as if it pushes one to write. Yes?
Yep.
Okay.
True, yeah.
Yeah. So I learned that your book, Endless I Will Be, has a total of 68 poems. And that's some big number. How did writing poems come in picture?
Yes, this it is a collection of 68 poems and on different topics, on life is, multidimensional. So I would say it's poetry collection on the multidimensions of life. The poems touches upon emotions and nature and, self-introspection and all different aspects that we experience in the journey of life. And my journey actually with writing began with my hobby of writing diaries, So, and then it turned into writing letter to editors during my school and college days, writing articles. And poetry has been a special section and a special form of expression all throughout this writing journey. Because poetry somehow makes you connect to your own inner self, or so to say, it touches your soul. And it also becomes a kind of meditation when you write a poem, in my experience.
Wow.
So since it's been many years, it's about a collection for about 3 decades, I would say.
Okay. 3 decades. That's a real long time.
More than 20 years.
No, actually, see, poetry, as I understand, it's the most difficult form of writing, because the one who is writing a poem has to explain everything in limited words. Expressing oneself, expressing one's observation, expressing one's heart out in a few words is a task in itself.
I truly agree, Ashita. It is like, I would explain it in this way. I find that poetry to most people is like a puzzle in a simple way. It seems like a puzzle to those who cannot understand in the first rate. When you read a poem and you really don't understand what the poem is saying or what the poem wants to convey,
Exactly.
it becomes a puzzle. So I feel like poetry has been liked by certain group of people.
Exactly.
It's not open to everyone because everyone is, open to reading short stories. Everyone is open to reading novels, or everyone is open to reading self-help books and the different genres which is available. But then poetry has also its own legacy.
It so has.
Yeah, so when we read poems which are understandable, with which you can connect to, and you start enjoying the poetry. So I would explain, or I would express that my poetry has been very direct to the point. I don't use difficult words. Actually, I have tried to use simple language, simple words. And I went through all this journey of penning down my thoughts or expressions, or all this experience of writing down the poems. I have tried my best to use the simple languages, the simple words, and I think it has been successful in some way, because many of the readers who shared their views and comments with me, they have also shared that they could relate to the poems easily.
Yes, that they were easily understandable.
Easily understandable, and they could strike the emotional chord with their own lives. So this is about what poem can do. It becomes a music for the soul.
Yes.
We like listening to music because it suits our mind. It touches our heart. And in the same way, when you read poetry, and if you find a connection, then it becomes a music for the soul.
True that.
So I feel that during writing these poems, it took me time. Yes, a lot of reflection was needed. A certain ambience is required. I need to be alone. You need a kind of inspiration that comes out. It may come anywhere at any point of time. Any kind of emotions, or an incident, or an observation of what people are doing. It can be anything. But then when you write down these poems, you need a certain kind of ambience, to pen down your thoughts. So that is what it takes.
Yes, and your timeline, it justifies the statement. You say it's the work of 3 decades, and no doubt it's a long time, and thinking, making that ambience available to oneself is again a task. And really, I appreciate your patience, holding down for so long and penning and keeping on, observing and everything. That's a thing in itself. Beautiful. Okay. I'd really like to know why the name Endless I Will Be. Poets long back, they used to name a poem same as the title of the collection. So did it inspire you that way, or it just happened?
It just happened, like the title itself. Endless I Will Be. There is a poem.
Whatever. Yes.
If you go through the poems, there is a poem which is titled Endless I Will Be.
Yes.
So the 68 poems are all unique poems. When you read, there is a theme, there is an idea in each of the poems where I'm expressing some kind of emotions or some kind of hope, the idea of hope, or some inspiration from nature or life struggle, about failure, or maybe it is about friendship. So each of these poems have certain kind of ideas and thoughts underlying, and it is to be explored. But I went through all of the titles, and I thought Endless I Will Be was kind of very, attractive and self-explanatory, So I thought it is the collection of 68 poems has been a companion in my journey of life. And so I felt like when these poems are there, it's been shared to people, it will remain with the people, even after some time. The Endless I Will Be title, I had chosen this because I wanted to give the first-hand idea of what the book is all about. And the poetry is all about, if it is being shared to people, if the book remains with the people, and even if I'm not there after some time, for example, then the book will stay forever. the words will stay forever.
Yes.
So in that thought of line, I thought my poem "Endless I Will Be" was the best, the poem that I could give the title to.
Beautiful. That is so justifying, because when maybe it could be an author, could be a poet, or anyone, once they pick up the pen, once they pick up with the ink, they need to make something that actually remains with the people for the longest time known. So justifying.
True, Rashida.
Beautiful.
And sometimes, Asita, it only comes out from, the heart. It comes out naturally. It's not that I want my words to remain forever with people. You just get inspired and you just want to share your thoughts. So I think, yes, it's not about, sharing with people and then, going for eternity. It's also about the inspiration and the moments that you captured, and so which are so beautiful, which needs to be, expressed.
Yes. Wow. And I have gone through the book. I observed the illustrations there. They were really some pieces in themselves. So was it your own idea behind the illustrations, or how did they come in picture?
Yes, initially when I finished, writing most of the poems, Ashita, I had started off, searching for my publication houses actually, and I tried a lot of, few of the publication houses based in India. I sent my manuscript, and while I waited for their reply, it took me many years actually, because I started thinking that I have to make something interesting about my book, and the idea of a poetry book with photographs, or illustrations, I have found it very interesting.
Okay.
And since people find it very, a little bit difficult when we read poems, I thought it would be very helpful, when I put some illustrations, which will help, the reader to have an idea of what I'm writing in the poem. There are few illustrations, like 10 illustrations in the book, poetry book. It goes with the idea of the poetry. And the illustrations were made by one of my, my friend's husband.
Okay.
And he is a good illustrator. I expressed that I wanted some good illustrations, and he also shared the idea that he will try and bring out some illustrations for the poetry book. So there was a collaboration, and he came up with these beautiful illustrations for the poetry book. And it has made the poetry book very, aesthetic and interesting to read. So a book of poem or other books, illustrations have always been good, and it has helped the reader to make it more clear.
They actually do. When there are illustrations in the book, especially in a poem book, it makes the reader understand the deeper meaning.
True. It also, adds, a kind of value to the poem itself. When the words are being beautifully expressed, and then again, the illustration is there for you, it resonates with the poem, then it gives a fulfilling, satisfying feeling to the readers. And that's what I felt, and that's how it came out, So the illustrations are there in the poetry book, and it makes the poetry read a very interesting one.
That is so true. Beautiful insight on the illustrations. So as I went to the book, ma'am, the second part of the collection, this collection of poems, you have divided the whole of the collection in 3 parts.
Yeah, it has been divided into sections.
The second section, which is named as Come Changes Come, and really caught my attention. How well have you understood changes, and how well have you welcomed changes in your being?
Let me put it in this way, Ashita, changes for me as well as for all the people, changes is a very difficult thing to accept. We are all comfortable, being in our comfort zone when we are, when we are used to certain things, certain way of working, dealing with people or knowing people, reaching out to people. We usually don't go out of our comfort zone. But then when we go through the journey of life, we do know that we need changes. So that is what had happened to me, and what it happens to everybody. We have to accept change in our life. And if we don't accept the changes, then I think there is no progress in life itself. And the changes comes with ideas in our minds. And we are all full of ideas. We are all full of different kind of thoughts that happen and that go through our minds every day. But then if we don't, pay attention, and if we don't, give a chance to the ideas that spring in our mind, then we are losing out on many things. So what I experienced in my life is, even when I had to move on in my, for example, in my friendship or in my relationship or in my career, all these, different dimensions to life, I have found that I have to accept the changes. There are certain times when things come to an end. When, for example, when it's your career, even if it's your studies, if it doesn't work out, and if you're given an exam, let us say, and if you fail in a competitive exam, then then you have to move on. If a plan A is not working, you have to move on to the plan B. And again, in a friendship, if you are not being able to adapt to your friend circle, then you have to accept the change. You have to know yourself, and you have to know that, okay, I'm out of this friend circle, or I'm out of this particular friend. You have to know when it comes to an end. Right? We all go through teenage years. We all go through different, kind of phases in our life. And we know that when something comes to an end, when a heartbreak happens, then we have to accept that something has come to an end. Unless and until we accept and we embrace, this very fact that we have to accept the changes, and we have to keep on letting it go, and then we have to keep on and accepting new things to come in our life, and to accept changes to happen. So my experience was in that way. I had many times, gone through the ups and downs of life. I have accepted when things came to an end, and I just let it go. So that way, I definitely accept change in my life. And it's a difficult thing, to bring new changes in your life, but then you have to keep trying. And let me share you a few lines out of that verse. Go ahead. Yes. So, it goes like this. Come, changes come. Come and transform us. Thou cannot limit thy mind, lighter than wind. Why thou should fear an outcome, for giving way to thy tender ideas will be more or less a gain. Abhor surviving in a stagnant pool, and truly shalt thou swell with life. Thou now, who befits a fighter, a winner of thyself, thou dost not get startled, even seasons change. Learn, vain mind, this nature's lessons. How was it, Ashita?
All that you said about changes, about accepting changes and everything, again, put in a few words and explain it. Beautiful.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, there was this one statement that you made, that ideas, they bring changes. That this is a very different statement in itself, because all through these years I have been on planet Earth, I have learned that changes, they bring on ideas. Because when you have to go through a certain change or something, then a new idea pops in. But your perspective is very different and enticing, I must say.
it actually happens. Because many times, Asita, what happens, what I feel is during our youthful days, when we are very young, in our teenage years, we are full of ideas, but we hesitate, There is a hesitation, maybe because of fear of rejection, maybe fear of failure, of implementing your idea. You do not approve yourself of your idea. So that kind of insecurity is there sometimes when we are in our younger age. That is what happens usually. I may differ in my opinion, because nowadays youths are very much informed. They are very much informed. They are much secure, and they are open to ideas. And I would also request to all the youngsters, that they should be open to their ideas. They should not fear about any kind of idea that's bringing their, thoughts. They should start implementing all those, ideas which occurs like dreams, If you don't give a chance to your idea, it just remains like a daydream. If you implement your idea, then it becomes an action, it becomes a change.
True.
But if then it remains in your thought only, it becomes a dream and a daydream, and it just dies away.
Maybe, it just keeps as a dream and dies away. Also, in some cases, it can also turn into a guilt in the later years of life. Yes.
Yeah.
So,
yes, life is so much about exploring.
that is so often so beautifully explained. The book of poems has a poem named Poetry. Now, what is that about?
I have my, this poetry book in my hand. Let me turn to the page where the poetry is. I just want to read out just two lines of that, of that. So that particular poem, Poetry, I'm just going to read out on the two first lines.
Please.
I find in poetry an ecstasy and a wholeness. So these are the first two lines of that poem called Poetry. Actually, I would explain it in this way, Poetry to me has been a very, joyful experience. And this could be different for different people, Like there are people who are joyful, who get attuned to listening music, who get their joy from listening music, and who get their joy from painting. Like for me, poetry has been a kind of a joyful experience, and more than that, it has been a kind of meditation. That's why I use the word wholeness.
Okay.
So when I write down a poetry, it's always a kind of meditation, a type of meditative journey. It helps me go deeper into my inner self, to dig deeper into my inner thoughts, and it's like a self-introspection. So whenever my mind is in chaos, when my thoughts are in chaos, everybody have a chaotic mind, We are at every point of time full of thoughts. Everything keeps on running in our mind. So there are moments in life that we have to stop. We have to stop this chaos. We need some inner peace. Otherwise, you won't be able to have clarity in your mind, and you won't be able to have that clarity in your thoughts, and to find out, what is the purpose in life. So through poetry, it was and it has been a journey of self-introspection whenever I wrote down a poetry, and it is on different themes. So I'm writing of what is happening around. I'm writing about what happened, in the past. And so the multi-dimensions of life, just that I've mentioned, the 68 poems come from, different topics, which I won't be able to mention here. And this usually the different topics come from, it starts with a chaos in your mind.
It does, yeah.
So there is a chaos in your mind, and when you start, penning down your thoughts, then you are able, I actually am able to find an inner peace, to attain an inner peace. So it's not just about writing poetry. Those who read poetry, and I would urge, everyone to read poetry, because there is a connection. Whenever you find a connection when you read the poetry, it brings a smile on your face. My readers, when they give their comments, they express that they truly find a connection. When I'm writing it down, it's like a direct conversation with your inner soul. It becomes easy for readers also, to connect to their own lives. So poetry has been a beautiful journey. It has been a companion in my life, actually. So this is how it is, Ashita.
Beautiful again. Back in the school days, we used to have a different book for prose and a different book for these poems. The teacher used to explain the poem and everything, but I used to read it and I used to try to get what actually the poet wants to convey. And back then, when it was the poets from the past, there's no point saying that, we never got to talk to them, we never got to meet them or anything. But now when I am in conversation with a poet, I am actually getting to know what exactly it was about, what I was looking back then. I can so much relate to that feeling that I used to get when I used to, hold that poetry book in my hand. So I used to struggle with that. When I say that I used to struggle with the poems, I don't say that it was, I used to find them difficult or something. No. But, that urge to understand the poet's perspective, that how, what meaning the poet has put in his or her poem. So that was my struggle. So talking to you is actually giving me that feeling. Okay, fine, I was running behind all the poems. I was running behind the poet's head. Now I'm getting to know it. It's beautiful.
I'm glad.
Actually, this conversation is, it's making me emotional. It's making me happy. I'm enjoying it. I'm loving it.
Yes, and I do believe, if you go through the book itself, you will experience the same thing.
Wow. The next of my question is that the poems in your book, they also talk about departure, pain, struggle, failure, betrayal, hatred, like all these, all the emotions that actually put one down. Now, I want to know that how you want the readers to understand and accept these.
Yeah, I agree, Ashita. Just as I mentioned, there are different phases in our lives, and we cannot miss out on all these phases of our life. When for example, when you face departure, departure when we mean when there is death of a very near, loved one, and one of my initial poems that I had written was titled Autumn. And Autumn was written, when my father passed away. I was in my 11th standard then. So, sometimes to a poet, this intense emotions also drive us to write out sometimes, So this Autumn was written when my father passed away. It is about the pain of departure, from your beloved ones. So in that way, when I talk about hatred, it is that we don't experience just love in our lives, There are moments of love, there are moments of hatred. There are different kind of emotions which we experience in our lives. And hatred is also something that we encounter. And you also know, I also know that hatred's nature, it takes us to greed, it takes us to live in fear, it takes us to anger. It not only dampen the spirit of the people or the person who feel hatred, it also, dampen the spirit of others around you. So hatred is a feeling that we should try to tone down, it is not possible for us to, 100% be away from hatred, because since we are human, we will come across different moments, when we feel the emotion of hatred. So there is something which I encountered. That is what I had written on a deep topic about hatred. And again, it's good that we understand and we move on. We tone down on things like anger, we tone down on things like hatred, and we should be trying to to move towards humility, towards dignity, respect, honor, laughter, and we should open our hearts to rejoice, and all those elements of life which take us to humanity. That's what I believe. So there are different topics that you also mentioned, like failure and there's just the struggle of life. When one is struggling for life, but then I feel that the very low moments of our life, it has a bottom. When you hit the bottom, you can't go further down the bottom. You have to rise again. And just like I mentioned earlier, you have to accept and you have to embrace all such kind of moments. Your high moments and your low moments. So even if you have a chaotic mind, then you have to struggle. Then you have to keep struggling, and you have to, go through self-introspection and accept all those emotions and all those setback that happens in our lives. Only then I think we can move forward. That's what the themes are all about, Ashta.
Actually, you talk about acceptance, and I feel that is the only thing that makes any life worth living. The moment one accepts, be it the good part or the bad part, the moment acceptance kicks in, struggle ends. I believe this. Do you second my point?
Yes, Ashita, in certain way. Yes, I feel that once we start accepting, I would use the word terrible, okay? Like when we accept terrible things that happen in our lives, it happens, and we are not in control of those terrible things that might happen in our lives. And we should also know that the same response that we have when we are very joyful, we feel elated, but then it doesn't last for a long time. In that same strength, we should also be try our best to embrace and accept those terrible moments. And we should look into ourselves and our inner self to find that kind of energy that remains hidden in our inner self, and this will be a life savior, actually. And this is something which, yes, it tells you that everything will become better. It will go away, all these terrible moments. Time is a moving entity. So what time and space, these are all moving entities. So it doesn't remain where it is. We will be in another time and space the next few hours, the next few months, the next few years. So the time and space keep changing. And so we have to keep embracing the moment. And if it's a terrible moment, then we have to endure the moment. We must learn endurance. And only then I think we will be able to experience life true to its different colors of life, the multi-dimensions of life. That's how I feel, Asika.
No, that's very reasonable, because once we understand that whatever is happening now and whatever has to happen in the coming moment, nothing is in our control. The only thing that we can do, the only best that we can do, is accept it and make it okay for ourselves.
If there is something terrible, it would be more, it will make it more terrible,
more terrible.
Thinking that, yes, why is it happening with me? Well, it had to happen with me. All those kind of that sorry feelings that we have. I think that we need to do away with all those sorry feelings about ourselves, and we should believe in the healing and the hope that life gives to us.
Yes. You are a woman working with the government of your birthplace. Yeah, you have expressed your heart in and out for your native land in your poems. What would you say about a relationship with your place?
I come from the beautiful place Manipur, and it is one of the northeastern states, not from the point of view as a government official. I would say from the day I was born in this land, my motherland, there has been many things, many struggle that our state has been facing.
Okay.
The struggle, yes. So every state, every place, every land has its own story of struggle, and our state has its own history as well as its own, journey of struggle that has been happening. Taking back to the years of when India got independence, when our country got independence, our state was also a independent kingdom. Manipur was, an independent kingdom, and then it got merged, with India, Indian Union in the year 1949, and it was an agreement between the governor of India and the Maharaja of Manipur. So the state, after getting reunited with our Indian Union, the underdevelopment, all these issues created, alienation, amongst the people and the state. And so what happened was in the early, 1980s, insurgent movements began in our state, and it still persists today. There have been many measures that had been taken from the side of the union, and many suspension of operation with some insurgent groups. And what I would like to say is that because of all the situation happening in our state, development not happening as in other states of the country, many youths of our state, they didn't have the opportunity, so they had to seek job opportunities outside the state, and they had to settle in, other states and also in other countries, even outside our country. And this is because there is not the lack of talent in our state. It's because the lack of the opportunities in our state. And so we witnessed the brain drain, drain happening from our state. And it does happen still today, because many things have improved, in the present day. But then the job opportunities, and in different ways, whether it's in the field of business, whether it's in the field of service, services available. When we look into it, many youths of our state go outside and seek, the opportunities. So in one of my poems, My Motherland, what I had written was, the background of how motherland has been caught in this wave, of insurgency, of underdevelopment, of this alienation from the Indian Union. And also, it's a call from the motherland to their sons and to their daughters who have gone outside and, who have settled in other parts of the country. It's a kind of connection that get lost away in course of time. When you get settled outside, the motherland is calling back here at home. So that kind of theme is there in one of these poems. And the other poem, A Walk in Unity, I had written about my state. This is about the turmoil that my state face even today. There are like about 33 recognized tribes in our state. We all live together. So there have been forces, that have been trying to pull us apart. And the poem urges, to everyone, to all its sons and daughters, to unite and, to narrow ourselves from the narrow thoughts of, exclusivity. What my appeal is that we have to live together. We cannot be so exclusive, In the present day, we have to be inclusive. We are a global village. I'm not talking about my state only. The world itself is a global village, isn't it? We are living in a global village where there is no term of exclusivity, because what is happening at one end of the world, we know here at the other end of the world. So everything is interconnected. So I'm appealing to all my brothers and sisters, to do away with the narrow thoughts of exclusivity, and it's an appeal to stop, to try ourselves, to tear ourselves apart, to stop fighting, and we have to stand united from all the forces that, that pull us apart. So that is what is being reflected in some poems based on my birthplace.
Your thought is an inclusion in itself. And as you say that it's a global village that we are in. So it is about being included and actually do away with the exclusivity, because however one try, I can live on myself or anything like that, it's just not possible.
It's not possible actually.
So inclusive nature has to be in. Wow. He explained things so well, I must say.
Thank you, Asita.
Yeah. Now, Mom, there is a lot of hope in your book. There's this one section that is named as hope. What has kept you hopeful throughout?
Yes, Asita. I actually, when I was writing my poetry, I was not conscious that I have written most of my poems, with the elements of hope. But then I realized, after reading my poetry, I do read my poems, sometimes when I'm alone, and when it always gives you a good feeling, good to go through your own poetry as well.
Yeah.
So I have realized, that all my poems have, a glimpse of hope, and many of the readers have also expressed it as well. And in that way, before explaining, about hope and why I had included all this element, I would like to read out just few lines, from this very poem called Hope. There is a special poem which is titled Hope. I'll read out the last 5 lines.
Yes, please.
Yes, like a light at the end of the tunnel, hope holds out to help and lead us on. Hope is what we often call life, soft and tender, yet strong and promise. Life is as long as hope is. So, Asita, what I feel is, these few lines explains half of what I wanted to say.
The last line itself.
Yes, life is
as long as hope is. Yes.
We live life, uncertain of what will happen the next moment. We are not certain of what is going to happen the next day. And the very explanation of hope is, we think that we will keep living on for 100 years. I think you and I always
have decided
that we live it forever. We always we never think about that also. So I think that is a very, very simple way of explaining what hope is. That because without the hope, we wouldn't be thinking or making plans of the future. So hope is something which consciously as well as subconsciously, I think all of us have, when we look into ourselves. We always have an element of hope, hidden inside in all of us. It may be during the daily routines, it may be the daily routines, you don't go into self-introspection. But then if you go into self-introspection when you are, thinking that you are falling into darkness, and you feel that you are becoming one with your shadow, and you are you are owning a struggle space all alone, then you find yourself, after digging in deeper into your own soul, that there is a very inner peace, a very profound, and this will kind of lighten your journey. It will bring a light in your life. As long as there is hope in our lives, I think we'll be able to overcome any kind of situation. And I think hope is something that's what I'm saying. When I wrote this poetry, I never thought about hope itself.
Okay.
When I read my poem later, after many years, I find these elements of hope being embedded in one one way or the other. So subconsciously or consciously, I think every one of us, even if it's the terrible times, but it's the darkest of times, I think there is a element of hope in everyone.
See, there are these three things that I live by. They are acceptance, hope, and faith. And now when we are talking about hope, I have been like a very, very, very close witness to a lot of things where hope has helped me. And I totally believe that अगर मैंने hope छोड़ दी होती तो honestly I would have landed nowhere.
Yes, Ashita, it's sometimes, it's sometimes the force itself. When we think about hope, it's very tender and it's very soft. But then, when you diagnose what is hope actually, it's a very strong kind of energy.
It is, no doubt.
It is a very, very strong kind of energy. And an energy which makes you, which acts like a life savior, and so it's something which we cannot explain it in words. I suppose
we actually cannot. Hope is something that really, you said it very right. You cannot explain it. Yes, but you can give an experience. You can give some example, and you can just put an idea what hope is to you or to anyone, like whoever talks about hope. आप बस उसका idea दे सकते हैं. You just cannot exactly explain what hope is and how it has worked for someone when he or she has been hopeful. It actually works wonders.
One has to experience hope by themselves, but then I think you and I can also be a second or third factor, give solace, and also inspire them, to talk about hope and so many things which awaits them. So I think this is always a good energy and a strong energy that exists, in our lives. Either we have to find it ourselves, or either a second or a third person has to
bring it to us.
Bring it to us. And yes, it always acts as a life savior.
It does. It so does. Actually, it is a life savior every time. We can name it as a survival kit. I'd say hope is a survival kit. Yes.
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. When I was going through the book, I couldn't have missed out onto the blurb. There is this one statement that is written there: spiritual journey of a poet's life. What's the fair say?
If I'm to explain it, Asita, I will present it in this way. There are certain aspects in our life. For example, in plain words, it's something which doesn't go with our physical appearance. When I talk of, spirituality, it doesn't. It's nothing about our physical appearance. It's nothing about related with our mind. It's not, related with our heart. It is something related with the self-introspection. It's about self-realization, and that's what I have said. When I wrote, all these poems, it was like a meditation tool for me. It was like connecting to myself. It was about connecting to my own self and talking to myself, asking a lot of questions to myself, and whether it was accepting and finding out, the peace in the chaos in my mind. It was about finding this inner peace after talking to myself, or just thinking to myself about many things.
Again, I would say it was beautiful. Like the way you have explained the spiritual journey of a poet. Wow.
So I'm hopeful that people and our dear readers, they can get this connection when they read the poems.
They so will. They surely will. Also, your poems, they are full of variety. There's this vast list of topics that you have talked about, how did you manage bringing so much all together?
Simply put, Ashita, I think all the poets, I think we are very observant
Hmm.
kind of people. So it's nothing new that poets are writing about in their poems. It's all about the mundane things,
Hmm.
the all the little things and all the simple things about life. It's all about observation, and it's all about expressing those beautiful emotions and
Hmm.
beautiful thoughts
Hmm.
that that occurs and that that comes to our journey when
Hmm.
we are writing the poetry. So like you said, my poetry collection, it has diverse titles and diverse themes,
Hmm.
and this is because there are many dimensions of life. And let me give you an example, not just the intense emotion, not just the departure, or not just about friendship or
Hmm.
struggles or heartbreaks, or about nature. There is also one of the poems called Happy a Child Is. So what the poem talks about is, like the very nature of a child.
Hmm.
When you see a child, you see that children are very happy, isn't it?
Hmm.
Like
They are. They so
you
are.
know, they play tirelessly. They always bring a smile, and they smile with all their heart. They cry out loud.
Hmm.
And we all know that they are so pure. In offering their love.
Hmm.
In offering their trust. They
Hmm.
don't have any kind of plot or schemes running in
Hmm.
their
Hmm.
mind. they don't
Exactly.
have
Huh.
any they don't have any worries. So, they are so innocent, and their heart is so rich. It emerges in their eyes, and it
Hmm.
sparkles in their eyes. So there are poems where I had written about the very beauty of childhood and about children.
Hmm.
And in this poem called Happy a Child Is, what I had written is that we don't need to understand them. We
Hmm.
just we don't need to understand children. All we need is to love them. Just they will be happy. It's their nature.
Hmm.
It's the way it is. So these are like the different variety of themes that I had touched upon.
Hmm.
One of my poems talk about the winter days.
Hmm.
Like you and I, we always had this very good times in during the winter vacation, isn't it?
Hmm.
Like we, after our school kind of curriculum, we have this long winter holidays and all.
Yes. Huh.
And those were like very beautiful time, and we would play all around, isn't it? Morning to noon, noon to night.
Hmm.
Those were such lovely days.
Hmm.
But then when we come to the present winter days, the winter days of an adult, I would say,
Hmm.
you know there are
They
no
are
free
actually
days.
cold. They are actually winterful. They
Yes,
become cold.
all this fun and all those just we had gone
Hmm.
away. Now we don't have free days even during our winter days, and
Hmm.
all our faces have become pale. With duties, our thoughts are duty laden. Our faces, they show that we are duty laden. We are thoughts laden. You
Hmm.
know, our faces do not appear that cheerful like it used to be when we were
Hmm.
during our childhood days. So we are all caught up in today's world. We are trying to live, we are trying to survive. So
Hmm.
something about all those things are also being portrayed in one of these poems called Winter Days. So Asita, like I've tried through different poems to touch different topics,
Hmm.
and that is how the collection has, it has reached 68 poems. That's how it is, Asita. That's how I would describe it.
That's how it gains its variety.
Yes.
Where you said that we don't have to understand a child because there is
True.
nothing in a child that needs to be understood. It's so plain, it's so
Hmm.
pure. That's the blank stage of life. Life that we are living is about ununderstanding things. Do you also feel so? Because the moment we start understanding things, no, plotting and planning and everything, they start kicking in.
Yes, Asita. Sometimes, yes, like when I was talking about accepting change, when I was
Hmm.
talking about going to progress in life,
Hmm.
it is about accepting what happens, and
What
what
happens?
happened is
Yes.
not in our hands.
Hmm.
It is not about understanding why death happens,
Hmm.
why heartbreak happens, why I fail, why you fail, why
Hmm.
people fail in their lives, or why terrible things happen in our life. It's not
Hmm.
about understanding why part,
Huh.
why it happens. It is about the way you said, understanding. It's about
Hmm.
accepting it, embracing it,
Hmm.
enduring it, and then moving on.
Yes.
That's what I think. Yeah, it's yeah. I would agree to what you're saying. It's about understanding.
I find myself comfortable thinking it this way because whatever our rush is, whatever we are running for, the moment we start seeing it the way it is, things actually they become beautiful for us. But
Yes.
till the time we are keeping onto that track, okay, fine, I have to understand something, I have to put my logic into something, I have to put my brains into something, खूबसूरती चली जाती है.
Mm-hmm.
Everything odd starts coming in when we start putting in logic, when we start putting in understanding in everything. So it is just about taking the things as they are.
Yes, truly it is. Living in the moment.
Yes, actually. Another poem that I would love to talk about is A River That Will Never Stop Flowing. I mean, the title is in itself a wow. How did this come up?
Ashita, this poem is about, it's a very simple try of
Hmm.
explaining what love is all about. Love,
Okay.
it's about the feeling of love itself. What I have expressed in the poem itself is that, all of us, just like
Hmm.
we talked about childhood,
Hmm.
the nature of children, you
Hmm.
know, love flows in their heart, in their innocent heart, and it shows on their face, it
Hmm.
sparkles in their eyes. So, love is something that is born with us. That's what I believe.
Hmm.
It flows uninhibited in our pure hearts.
Hmm.
Whatever the situation, whatever the age we may be in, I
Hmm.
think love is always there, because life is all about love and humanity, and these are the things that keep us alive, actually.
Hmm. Hmm.
you know that way, the nature of love is such that it teaches us many things. It teaches us the feeling of joy and agony together.
Hmm.
When you love someone, you also experience agony together.
Hmm.
So it's something that descends on our hearts, but then we fail to learn, feel agony and sorrow, and when we feel that, oh, it's not love, it's the love has ended,
Hmm.
that somebody has forsaken me, something like that. We always put an end to love. But
Hmm.
what I feel is that what love teaches us is about joy and agony together,
Hmm.
and it also teaches us about our sensibility,
Hmm.
to love humanity itself. It's not about just romantic love. It's not just about the love that you feel for your mother, for your father, for your daughters, for your, like that. It's also
Hmm.
the love for humanity. It teaches us to love selflessly. It also teaches us, the ability of loving people, to have the empathy towards people.
Hmm.
It is something about acceptance, like you just mentioned, and love is also about forgiveness. So it is
Forgiveness,
something.
yes.
So in a line, I wanted to describe love,
Hmm.
and I came up with this beautiful expression that love is a river that will never stop flowing.
It will never stop flowing. With all that said, I believe that love is the only feeling that, as you say, it is born with us. I'd say it's the only feeling that is present here on this very planet. Any other feeling that we talk about actually is the result of love.
That's what, yes, Ashita, that I had also hinted in my
Hmm.
poem, that, when we feel agony, when we feel sorrow, pain
Hmm.
out of love, we sometimes confuse ourselves that the feeling of love itself is gone.
Is gone. Yes, actually, but it is right
Yes,
there.
yes, it is always there,
Huh.
and again, it keeps coming in our lives. It
Hmm.
is not something that it dries up in your heart. And you keep meeting people,
Hmm.
like when your child is born. You never had that love until the child was born, isn't it? When a child is born, you love the child, unconditionally, and it
Hmm.
comes out naturally.
Naturally,
So
yes. So
it's
yes.
something which we don't invent. It's inherent in us.
Hmm.
We are born with love, and it is about, knowing that you can love people. And love is what I feel, it's not about the other person reciprocates, or whether the other person shows, how they love us.
Hmm.
It's always about your ability
Hmm.
to love, to love the other person, your own children, or your own family, or your friends, or your acquaintances. It is the ability that you have in yourself. And once you realize that, you have the ability to love people,
Hmm.
I think it's never going to die. It's always
Never.
there with you.
Hmm.
The people
Huh.
may change, but
Huh.
the feeling is always there. Love never dies. You
Never
are capable
dies.
of loving.
Hmm. So true. This was so beautiful. So very beautiful. That was a very intense conversation, I'd say. To make it light, yes. Now let's come to a lighter part. I'd like to ask you, what are your expectations from your readers? And when I say so, when I ask so, I mean, how do you expect them to include your poems in their being?
Yes, Ashita. Like, the conversation has been remarkable, whatever we discussed, because, like, it has been, like, focused on certain poems and all.
Hmm.
But then, Ashita, what I would like to say to all my dear readers is, like, these poems were written in moments, that were really inspiring to me,
Hmm.
and I had tried to capture those moments in these beautiful words,
Hmm.
and it gives me a sense of satisfaction when I am able to write down those beautiful, thoughts and expressions and emotions, that I had experienced in my journey of life.
Hmm.
So, what I would like to say that my book, and this I will be, would really have an emotional connection. I hope. I
Hmm.
hope that there will always be an emotional connection. And
Hmm.
many readers, they had also expressed to me that the poems are very relatable to them, and they put themselves in the poems itself.
Hmm.
Even if
Hmm.
it's a poem, it's a moment that has been captured in the beautiful words. These are applicable to everyone, because we as human beings, we face all this kind of emotions and all this kind of different dimensions about life, struggle, failure, weakness, chaos, and friendship, etc., etc. So I think there's emotional connection,
Hmm.
is something that my poetry will offer, and I do believe it will offer solace, self introspection. In many of the poems, it asks a lot and lot of questions, and there are also, that, like we discussed, the elements of hope,
Hmm.
and and many words I had used, and there's some beautiful quotes which will give inspiration about life, which, because it gave inspiration to me,
Okay.
it inspired me. So
Hmm.
I think it will give the same inspiration about life. It will bring a smile, and laughter when you read the poems. And it also, talk a lot about time and space and nature. And the nature is healing, it has a
Hmm.
healing power. So all the poems have elements of healing, and that's what I believe. So lastly, but not the least, I think there is love, there is hatred, there are tears, there is laughter in these poems, and also there is strength in these poems. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun reading these poems.
I already mentioned it, I already talked about it, but I'd love to say it again. I am seeing myself as that 14-15-year-old girl who was reading the poems in the school, trying to figure out what the meaning of the poem is, and thinking कि अगर अभी मेरे सामने पोएट बैठा होता तो मैं उससे पूछती कि इसका क्या मतलब है, आपने क्या लिखा है और क्यों लिखा है. Honestly, मतलब मेरे ना वो वाली बार बार I'm getting that feeling that I'm talking to a poet from that time. मतलब अभी I'm feeling that way that I'm talking to a poet who has written poems in back then, जो मैंने क्लास 10th 11th में तब पढ़ी थी और मुझे बहुत अच्छी लगी थी वो poems. I'm getting that feeling again and again.
I'm so grateful.
You know, as we're talking, मेरे दिमाग में अपनी ही वो image आ रही है that I'm holding that poem book and the teacher is explaining me the poem and I'm trying to get the meaning.
I hope it's not boring.
Not at all. I mean, I'm saying it to you ना, मतलब वही होता था कि मतलब जैसे वो समझा रही हैं तो मैं उस चीज को और अपने तरीके से भी समझने की कोशिश करना. अभी फिलहाल I feel कि हाँ, a poet is in front of me. The poet is trying to explain me what and why it is written what it is written.
Yes, truly it is. You know, I feel that I'm in that position where I'm appealing to all the readers that, you know, just like they give attention to short stories, novels and all. They should start reading poetry because like poems, you know, these are like music for the soul, you know. All of us, we like music, you know, that suits our mind. So when we read the right kind of poems, it is a music.
No, wow. That actually, you know, the conversation in itself is so appealing, so beautiful.
Thank you, Asita. It was wonderful talking to you also.
Thank you so much.
The conversation itself was really, really interesting.
You know, now we are heading to the end of the conversation. I'd like to know that, are you into reading the reviews that come in?
I'm very excited in fact, you know, I read reviews that, you know, about my book that comes up in, for example, in Amazon, where people drop in their reviews after reading. And some of the readers have left beautiful comments, you know. And to tell you, Asita, you know, for a poet, and personally for me, I used to write a poem and I would run to my cousin sister or to my elder sister or to my friend.
Okay.
And I would tell them, come on now, I have written a poem. You have to read this.
Okay.
So I used to enjoy, you know, when they read my poems and when they expressed their views about my poems, you know, how they understood my poems. So it always gives me that kind of feeling now also, you know, when people leave comments about my poems, and it gives me joy, you know, to read their reviews. So, and they have left such beautiful comments, and I really am thankful to all of them.
Beautiful. So, was there any review that made a good hit? I mean, that was
yes. I remember one line. You know, there were different reviews, and they were so all beautiful. But I remember one such review, and he said some of the lines were so beautiful that he wanted to hang it on his wall.
Oh, wow.
You know, that was what was written, and it really, you know, struck me. You know, I felt so happy, you know, when someone said like that the lines were so beautiful, and that he wanted to hang it on the wall.
No, it is some statement, some beautiful compliment made, no doubt.
Yes, it really touched my heart.
Beautiful. Amazing. So, any bonus statement for the listeners?
Well, last but not the least, I would appeal to all the readers, to check out the book, and I think the poems are really interesting, and it would have an emotional connection because every one of us experience all this emotional journey, spiritual journey in our lives, and not just for those who have experienced those moments. I think for the youths, for the youngsters, uh, for those who are experiencing struggle in their lives, who feel depressed or who feel beaten down in their struggle of life, who are quite confused about their career or about what they have to do in their lives, I think reading these poems will give them a kind of self-introspection, and they will also feel the same hope that I felt while getting to the clarity of my mind after the chaos, that happened in my mind after writing the poems, and going through the self-introspection. I found hope. I found my own purpose in life. So I think I'm hopeful that through the poetry read, you will also enjoy, and you will also get the same inspiration that I got.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So I would really love to thank you for, accepting my invite and being here on the show. Thank you so very much, ma'am. It was really, really, again, I would use the word beautiful talking to you. The conversation was so engaging, so lovely. To be honest, it took me back to my school poem time.
Thank
Yes.
you. I would like to thank you, Ashita, from the bottom of my heart, for reaching out to me. And thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you very much, ma'am.